Welcome to another episode of Ask MA the podcast. If you want to be part of the show, let's say you have some stories, questions, or if you need some advice, send me a message on my social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at MABuendiaHD, and I will give you a call. All right, guys, so we have a guest on the line. He is Erik, 26 years old from Quezon City. Hello, Erik. Welcome to the show, and what do you want to talk about?
Hello, first of all, thank you for having me. This is really nice. And I want to talk about my background, given that I am liberal progressive, but I actually grew up in a conservative Chinese household.
Okay, you said that you're a liberal progressive. I mean, can you expound more on that?
So I label myself as a liberal progressive, and there are a lot of ways to describe what a liberal progressive person is. But the
Mm-hmm.
way I use those terms is just that I treat everyone equally. I don't discriminate on religion, on gender, and on political ideals, and I try to maintain equality for everyone and respect, basically.
And then yung sinabi mo kanina na you're from a conservative Chinese background.
Yes. So it's actually a wonder kung paano ako naging ganito kasi I grew up in a conservative Chinese household. So
Mm-hmm.
basically lahat ng stereotypes that you have from a conservative religious Chinese family, that's where I grew up with, and those were my experiences growing up.
Okay. Ano yung religion na meron ka ngayon?
Currently, I stand as Taoist, so Taoism, not Taoism. It's actually Taoism.
Mm-hmm.
That kasi a lot of people confuse that kasi basta there's an explanation for that. So I'm a Taoist,
Mm-hmm.
and that's mainly coming from kasi my household were all Taoists. So
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with Taoism, and I am Taoism right now. Pero I'm considering and contemplating what my religion actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi given how progressive I am, my beliefs with Taoism or what my version of Taoism is from my family is wavering already.
Yeah. Who's your god? I mean, as a Taoist. I mean, can you explain more
Yon.
about your faith and then your traditions or whatever?
So our gods, which are deities from the Chinese pantheon,
Mm-hmm.
is different from other Taoists. So it it makes me now question ano ba talaga yung religion ko, di ba?
Ano yung mga
Yon.
questionable claims or ano yung mga parang belief system ng Taoism na parang feeling mo medyo BS or you question it kasi sanabi mo liberal progressive ka, so for sure meron ka mga nanonotice na parang things that don't make sense, you know?
Yeah, oo. So, there are a lot of contradictions coming from the Taoism I grew up in and the Taoism that I study about. For example, pag nag-research ako on what Taoism is in China, it's very different from the way I grew up. Basically, what I'm questioning is yung lack of moral guidance
Mhm.
in the version of Taoism I grew up in. Kasi, di ba, ikaw ba, ano yung religion mo?
I grew up to be a Roman Catholic, but right now I'm an atheist.
Roman Catholic.
Mm-mm.
So more or less, 'di ba, with Roman Catholic and Catholicism, meron kang some sort of tinuturo na moral compass on
Yeah,
how to be a good person, 'di ba?
right.
So lumaki ako in a household na wala my moral compass doesn't come from religion. It
Okay.
comes from society.
Mm-hmm.
And medyo hindi ko siya napansin until later on, maybe a few years ago, na the way I treat religion is mostly circled around rituals. Hindi siya
Okay.
moral compass.
Yeah.
So basically, hindi doon nanggagaling yung pagiging liberal progressive ko. It's
Mm.
mostly from my upbringing, my friends, the community,
Yeah.
ganyan.
And of course, your common sense. I mean, not to do this and that. Do you have like a Bible or like 10 Commandments or some sort of like a guide?
No, actually we don't.
Okay.
When I researched Taoism in China, there's a some sort of set of philosophy on how to live life and a pantheon on who to preach and pray for. Pero dito sa amin, wala basically. So, yeah, I was going in blind and living blind about my religion.
Okay, but right now, do you still consider yourself a Taoist?
Yes, because what I want to be is the Taoist that I want to be. So,
Okay.
basically, I want to stay a Taoist, pero not the way I was taught of what Taoism
Mm-hmm.
is, but what I can learn in the future. So, para mag-evolve siya, no?
Mm-hmm.
So, kung ano yung hahanapin ko sana, kung ano yung tunay na Taoism, and how I can live that, how I can live following those principles.
Yeah. Ano yung mode of worship nyo here in the Philippines? Pala, do you have temples here, or I mean, do you have a scheduled like Sunday or?
Yeah, we do have temples and we do have scheduled festivals.
Mhm.
So unlike we don't really have a day of worship, so you can
Okay.
worship any time of the day. You just go to the temple and you do Chinese rituals.
Yeah. May mga limitations na ba na na-experience ikaw dahil sa religion, like you cannot eat this, you cannot wear this, you cannot do this? Kasi 'di ba in other religions meron talagang ganong rules.
Yeah, yeah. So meron marami sa religion namin na a lot of them, a lot of the things I followed weren't really explained to me. I didn't know why I had to do certain things. For example, um, I'm not allowed to wear black, but the explanation is simply because black attracts bad spirits.
Mhm.
Pero it wasn't compelling enough. Alam
Yeah.
mo yon? Na parang kulang medyo hilaw. And
Mm.
I'm not shitting on my religion. I
Yeah.
feel like I just need to understand it better.
Yeah.
And currently, kulang. Pero hindi doon nanggagaling yung mga experiences ko and to one extent abuse na na-experience ko in society. It's because it's because I'm coming from a conservative Chinese household
Mhm.
in the Philippines. Doon nang galing yung mga weird stuff na ginagawa ng mga tao sa akin. But this was really difficult explaining to my friends, which became Filipino over time.
Yeah.
Kasi coming from elementary, I was in a Chinese elementary school. So medyo sheltered ako, no? Tapos, when I went to high school, I went into a public science high school. So, medyo na-culture shock ako with how people treat each other. It's very different. Hindi
Mhm.
ko alam kung paano ko i-explain yung background ko,
Yeah.
yung religion ko, and basically all the stereotypes of being Chinese, naranasan ko
Yeah.
siya.
Ano yung mga typical na stereotype or discrimination na experience mo?
It's mostly a contrast between my sheltered upbringing. I think I'm old enough now to accept and understand na I grew up sheltered because sabi sa akin, I'm Chinese. Hindi ako matangkad, medyo payat ako. So, tas Chinese, medyo maputi. So, basically, ang tinuro sa akin, when I commute, if I ever commute, basically parang naglalakad ako na sign na, uy, nakawan mo ako, rob me, I
Yeah.
am rich, even though that's not necessarily the case. So when I went to high school, I was surprised that people at that age in high school already commute. And ako, hindi ako marunong
Yeah.
kasi hindi ako tinuruan. Kasi tinuruan ako na matakot, di ba?
Mhm.
So, a lot of different experiences. I was even bullied to an extent for being Chinese.
Yeah. Naka-experience ka na ba ng parang conflict in terms of, relationship with people because of your
In the Chinese community, meron kaming concept na Great Wall.
Okay.
Kasi with traditional Chinese parents, they want you to date and marry
Chinese.
other Chinese
Okay.
people. So, for example, ako, I am almost pure Chinese.
Mhm.
I am expected to marry or date and marry another pure Chinese woman.
Pure. Okay.
And the Great Wall is sort of like how me and my Chinese friends talk about the way uh, our parents cock block us from dating
Mm.
other races aside from Chinese.
Yeah. I mean, ano yung purpose nun? Just to preserve the wealth of the family, or the bloodline na Chinese, or
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really complex. I think it's mostly about maintaining the purity of the blood. Ala,
Okay. Okay.
familiar ka ba sa sa Harry Potter, di ba may pure blood and
Yeah,
mud
and then
blood?
the muggles and then the
Oo.
mm,
So to an extent, the Great Wall is sort of like a concept of the pure-blooded wizards that
okay.
they want to maintain their purity of
Mm.
being Chinese.
Have you ever fallen in love with Filipino or not Chinese?
So doon papasok yung pagka-liberal progressive ko. Because
Okay.
I really don't believe in this Great Wall
Yeah.
concept or
Mm.
the purity of blood concept. I believe everyone is equal and I should be able to date whoever I want.
Yes.
So I have not dated a Chinese woman in my life.
Okay.
I have dated Filipinos, Filipino Chinese.
Mm.
I've dated an African girl, but not never an actual Chinese woman.
Okay.
So ayun siya.
Normally, 'di ba, if you're Chinese, parang you're being trained to handle a business or parang mas I mean, they are actually parang encouraging you to become an entrepreneur or
Yung family expectation sa akin
yes.
because I am the oldest male child in our family.
Okay.
So the basic stereotypes apply. If you're the oldest male child, you're supposed to be the most successful because you're
Okay.
carrying the bloodline and the burden of your family.
Yeah.
And you need to maintain the reputation of your Chinese community.
And the family
So,
name, right? Kailangan you should have like a
yeah.
son, no?
Oo. So, medyo growing up, multiple aspects siya sa akin.
Pressure,
So,
ah.
since panganay ako, uh, my educational background needs to be top notch.
Mhm.
So I needed to study in the best schools possible, ganyan, or have the best outlook in my career.
Mhm.
So in terms of education, I was supposedly hindi ako dapat nagtitake ng arts courses,
Yeah.
music courses, hindi masyado.
Pero
It's
ano ba talaga
supposed
yung
to be
passion mo? I mean, what did you take up?
I currently have a communication arts background ng undergrad and international affairs masters
Mhm.
ng grad school. Both of which are not are not what my parents would want from me kasi panganay
Yeah.
ako. So alam mo na yan, 'di ba? Yung mga usual
Right.
na
Yeah.
kailangan doktor, engineer,
Correct.
business,
Businessman,
'di
yeah.
ba?
I see. And then you know how to speak Mandarin. How many languages do you speak?
I have a problem with language. I call myself a bilingual, which spelled as BYE, as in bye
Yeah.
bye, goodbye,
Yeah.
bilingual.
Yeah.
Kasi I was pressured to learn Mandarin, Hokkien, English, Filipino, and back in college, French elective. And what I realized happened to me was every single language I know deteriorated except probably for English. And even
Right.
in English, I'm not native. I think I'm fluent in English but not native.
Yeah.
So kasi may
Okay.
skill yan, 'di ba?
Between Mandarin and Hokkien. I mean, normally kapag Chinese families, parang they prioritize yung Hokkien muna kasi that's what they use in the house. So yung
Yeah.
Mandarin, it's like more on for business or parang international type of Chinese language siya, di ba?
Yes, you're correct.
Mm, okay.
So lahat to is conflicting with the way I want to live my life, which
Yeah.
is
Uh-uh.
absent of stereotypes and accepting of everything, 'di ba?
Yeah. Especially right now na ang daming issues ng Chinese here in the Philippines. So,
Yeah.
na-involve na yung politics sa race. So, hindi na kayang i-divide ng tao yung pagiging racist or sa pagiging political lang or alam mo yun, ano yung pinaka-struggling ngayon for you as a Chinese guy here in the Philippines? Kasi 'di ba lately itong COVID na to, so I mean it came from Wuhan, China and then maraming stereotype right now against Chinese people na parang sinasabi na oh you guys are eating exotic food like itong mga animals na rats, bats and then yung hygiene. Alam mo yon how do you feel about that? Na especially parang na yung stereotype and then yung negative perception ng tao sa Chinese.
Oo. Sige, I think this is a very important topic to discuss, even if it's just a little bit, especially to the listeners and the viewers in the future of this podcast. Yung mga stereotypes na yon, they're actually visible and they do exist for mainland Chinese, for the mainland Chinese,
Yeah,
yung mga galing sa China or nakatira sa China. Well, although obviously we can't generalize on a
correct.
single nation or
Right.
people, and I worry na the assumption that all Chinese are like that is
Yeah,
gonna propagate here in the country, and it's
yeah.
gonna affect the Phil Chai community as well.
Correct. Iba na nga ngayon eh kasi syempre may mga racist remarks and all that even in other countries like in the US kapag nakita sila ng Singket or Asian, even Filipino yun,
Yeah.
sobra yung naging impact nitong pandemic na to kasi syempre yun na stereotype nga ang Asians especially doon sa mga countries na yun. So mas na-amplify yung racism against Asian people. So it's
Yeah,
just very
actually,
unfortunate.
that's a good term. That's a good term. It was amplified because it already
Eh
existed.
yeah,
Now,
it
parang ang lala, no?
correct. And we've never been this divided, no? Na kung mapapansin
Yeah.
mo, it's beyond political na. So it's just sad that we are in this era and this very terrible crisis that we're facing right now. And also, I have a lot of Chinese friends. So, I feel for them na nakaka-offend na siguro yung iba inisip lang nila na okay lang, it's just for fun, yung mga memes, parang wala namang issue yan. Pero inisip ko kasi nandun yung especially those kids who are gonna grow up and then yun na parang magchi-chingchong-chingchong sa kanila or parang malilabel sila na parang
Ah,
your virus or ganito.
Before COVID, I would say the world was moving forward to globalization and interconnectedness. So
Right.
there's a lot of exchange in culture and a lot of we're hoping that people would understand each other more.
Mm.
Kasi there's this theory na the reason why racism exists is because people lack exposure and understanding
Correct.
on the background and lives of other people, diba? I would like to call out to our friends who are Filipino as well to hopefully not stereotype
Mm.
the Phil Chai friends that we have here in the
Right.
country.
A lot of Filipino Chinese are Filipinos more. I mean, by heart. Nila.
Yes, oo.
Mm-mm.
Our country is the Philippines and we are your friends and yung mga stereotypes hindi po kami yan.
Yes. Well, thanks. I learned a lot today, Eric. Thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you
story.
very much
and
for having me. This was such a delight.
yeah,
Thank you.
You take care. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, so that has been Ask MA the podcast. Thank you so much for being with us. And again, if you want to be part of the show, go ahead and share your stories, ask me some questions or advice. Just message me on my Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at MA Buendia HD and I'll give you a call. I love you for listening and let's talk next time. Bye!